Okay, this is another conceptual spreadsheet. I hope it's okay. But I can't speak way too loudly because I'm in a public place here. But you know, I am trying to show how you can attempt to create synthetic sculpting. And what really happens in Brazil, so this is again part of this working through these project finance issues, and I'm just kind of circling them in blue when we have them finished. So the next one will addresses mini perms. This issue is in BNDES, I think they call it in Brazil. They're very good. They say, okay, we'll give you a loan for 20 years. They said you can get all the way up to 80%, but then you have to have a DSCR of 1.25, and it's got to be a level payment. This is a major complaint, and I've heard this complaint in Brazil. So here's the problem. In Brazil, I should put this PPA agreements have to be indexed to inflation, and inflation is about 6%. So we have a fairly high rate of inflation. Now what I did here is just put in our model a growth rate, index rate of 6%, and 80% debt to capital, a DSCR target of 1.2, and here's the big problem. We better aim for about a 13% IRR at least, probably more. When we do this, we're DSCR constrained, and we get our equity IRR of 13%. We only get 57% debt to capital. In this case, if we use sculpting, it dramatically increases the equity IRR. Look, it goes from 13% to 20%. Okay. I'm going to save this as O&M analysis and synthetic. Now I'm admitting that I just made up a term, just like I bitch about all the time, and say, oh, all these finance people make up terms, but whatever. Now, what happens if we could switch the maintenance agreement, and instead of having the revenues go down, well, we'd have zero maintenance here, and then the maintenance would really go up. Okay, and when the maintenance really goes up, you would switch the shape of this line. Now, it depends how much the maintenance is as a percentage of the revenues. So let's make it 30%. That's high. Okay, so we're going to try to do this, and we could even include part of the maintenance in the capex. Okay, and we could try to minimize the capex and maximize the maintenance. Now, you can't just throw in arbitrary numbers, which I admit I've done before. So what we're going to do is let's put revenues. Okay, we can do the same sort of thing we've been doing before. Multiply that by 1 plus the growth rate. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. And then we copy that across, and then we'll put maintenance. Okay. the maintenance, let's take from the other. Let's take from the other sheet. Okay, so let's first put some O&M agreement. Now it doesn't, of course, matter that we put it in dollars per kilowatt per year, dollars per kilowatt. Let's put here's what we're going to do. We're just I'm going to start with this. Alt EIS 30. Okay. And our base case is just going to be let's put the capex. Okay. So. Let's find our capital expenditures, and those are our simple shift control 100,000. And then our base case, we'll put our growth just like we did here. We'll get our capex times 30%. So that's our cap, and then we multiply that by 1 plus the growth rate. Control R. I hope I'm not wasting time by the simple kind of thing. Now the big deal is going to be what kind of discount rate. O&M discount rate. Now, if you're a big company who's doing the O&M, and you can borrow money from the bank, that discount rate might be really low. And we can see kind of how it matters. Let's put a 5% discount rate, and of course, we can we'll need to adjust that, so we can put a spinner button on this. I should have not waste your time with this, and should have a different. I don't know if I have a video on this or not. I'm just making those little silly things. Okay, and then I gotta divide this by 100. Okay, so now we can see how the O&M discount rate is going to affect this whole synthetic sculpting business. Okay. And why don't we put perhaps here the NPV. So this is the basic fact, is that this shift control R, shift control 1. Now we have the base case established. The other scenarios better result in the same kind of NPV. So let's put alternative pattern. Okay, and let's say we put 0% of the base, and then we put 100%. How about we put alternative? Okay, and let's say we put some here, and then we'll put this at times 2. Okay. Now, okay. Actually, why don't we do something better? Now, I am afraid of this, but why don't we put we'll put alternative and we'll put the year in. well, excuse me. So I'll put year 1 is 0, and year 10, that might be too much, 7 is 100% of the base. And year 15 is 200% of the base, and year 20 is 300%. Now let's take this and multiply this by 2. This times 3. Now what we'll have to do is let's put oops. Let's put year 30 as 10 fourths. Okay. Now we could Shift Control P. We could have all sorts of different patterns. Okay, and excuse me, and payment. Okay, and here's what I want to do. I'm going to see if it works now. Now in my disk, in chapter 1, in folder 12, in the function library, I have a function named lookup and interpolate. Okay. And the way this works is you put in something like a discount rate, and then instead of just putting in the flat numbers, it's supposed to interpolate. So this one is it's called interpolate lookup. So what you do is you go to the macros of this file, edit those, and find the one for basic lookup, long lookup, interpolate lookup. So let's find this one. I think it's an important function. Okay, and here we go. And let's in this function. Let's put it in our function little page. Okay. Okay. I am very nervous about this, but let's see. So unlike macros, by the way, if you want this, you have to. So this is called you have to copy them into your file. So we're going to look up on this, and let's okay. So this is alternative 1. Okay, I'm not even talking, so this might be really boring for you, but let's try it. Okay, I'm very nervous about it, but the reason we did this is then we can just shade the whole, look at the whole line. Shift Control R, and this is looking very exciting for me because now we have a gradual change rather than an extreme change, and I'm going to even trust myself that this works. So that's important that we can just input that. So then we can take our alternative case 1, okay, and that's just going to be this multiplied by the base case. Okay. And then we'll just switch this and make sure our discount rate is the same. Okay. And once we do that, oh, this was way too much. So what we can do is make a goal seek on this and see how what kind of number we'd have to what kind of number we'd have to do to adjust this to make this equal to 100. Now, I suppose I was thinking of making a function. If we made a function on this, we would change this we would start with 0 and then keep pushing it up until this number is greater than the target, and we'd have to read this in. I'm not going to do that. So instead, let's put the difference. Okay, take this minus this, and we'll press Shift Control C to remember that we changed this one, but this should have been this times 2, this times 3, and this times 4. Okay, and Shift Control C again, so we just see this. So now when we make this goal seek, let's make a macro on it, and we can call it alternative 1. Whoops, well, we can't name it that because there's something called alt 1. And we of course, I keep saying of course, we do a what if, what do you say, make this one equal to 0 by changing this one. We absolutely should have to name the ranges, so that's the name. Now the problem is when we change the discount rate, we'll get a different discount rate. So what we could do is just put this here, and okay. Whoops, did I assign a macro to it? I thought I did. Excuse me, I thought I did. So if we change the discount rate, it didn't work. Why didn't it not work? Let's just try it. So, excuse me for wasting your time. Developer. Ups. Oh, good. This is great. Oh, shit. Oh, God. I did the crime of the crimes. The crime. The biggest crime of anything. And while we're doing this, why don't we just name this base percent 1, and why don't we call this diff 1? Okay, base percent 1. Oops, I can't do that one. How about difference 1? This was difference 1 and base percent 1. So we make this difference 1. And we call this base percent 1. Okay, and then we can do this for difference 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we can just redo that every time we would change the. Oops. Okay. Did I really? Difference 1, so. So. let's put S3. I'm sure it's almost always when you make this kind of mistake, it's going to be a difference one, base %1. I didn't put a underscore. Unbelievable. I heard you could take pills, or I heard on my radio that in French that you could practice, like practicing running, you could practice your brain to not make this kind of stupid thing. Okay, so we can now see the difference in our pattern if we change the discount rate. It seems that if we have a higher discount rate, we're going to have to increase the maintenance expense. Now we could do this in a different way. Let's put alternative 2. And we'll copy it down, and this time, how about we'll, instead of multiplying it by 2, we'll multiply it by 3, 6, and 7. Okay, we can, whatever. And then we'll put the practices. Okay, now once we have finished this, we're going to make an index, not an index, we'll use the choose function to get this, but we might make a third one. Let's, while we're at it, let's make a third one. Control V. Okay. And the third one, let's just multiply by 1.5 and say that we can't really do this. And let's also say we have to have 30% of our expenses covered. And maybe we multiply by 2, multiply by 2.5, so that's a more moderate case. Okay, and then we can put the alternative pattern 2 here. Okay, and actually I'm half interested in this. We can put another NPV. And finally, what we could do is also put in 0 here. Now, we could put for year 0, let's say we pay upfront payment. Put I'm going to just put so alternative for upfront payment. So in this one, let's just say we pay as a percentage of the capex. Let's just say we pay 15% of the capex up front, and then after that we'll use the alternative 1. And then let's make a really aggressive one. We'll have the pattern, and then what the payment is. Okay, and then let's pass alternative 5. And we'll put a payment of 20%, and the percentage of base is we'll use number 2, which is a more aggressive payment. But you know what we're going to have to do is redo this. So we'll have alternative 4, Alternative 5. Now, let me just try to explain this. So we're putting in all sorts of different patterns, and when we put in all these different patterns of the operating expense, okay, what we're going to do is compute the NPVs each time, and when we compute the NPVs, we'll have simply different patterns, and then when we get to the analysis of maintenance sheet, we'll put the different maintenance patterns in here. And now our EBITDA will be this, the revenues minus the maintenance. And we'll be able to examine ultimately what happens, how these different maintenance contracts could affect the sculpting. So what we're going to try to do is put the initial cash flow up and then later cash flow down. And when we do that, even though we'll have this horrible level payment, we'll be able to push this up. And when we push this up here, we'll we'll have a higher DSCR, and we'll be in the, and then we'll get a higher level of debt, and we'll get closer to our debt to capital constraints. So that's how the whole thing really works. Okay, and I think we'll put so alternative 1 will be the same as alternative 4, but when we do alternative 4, here's the problem. The NPV is going to be a lot less because we have a big upfront payment. We're just putting in the CapEx. So those are the kind of games you can play with all this sculpting to try to really optimize it. And so we're going to then take this aggressive case, okay, and see if we can. That's going to be the same as case number 2, where we really have it. If we really got crazy, we'd love to put a negative number in here, but I'm not going to go that far. I can't go that far. Okay. We could change all of these, and in our goal seek, we'll have the differences for each one. Okay, so let's just do some of this. So recall that we can use the interpolate lookup. That's an important function. For me, I think it's a crucial function. We use that, and I keep talking about it to other people. This shows that it really does work, I hope. This time we're taking alternative 2, which is the more aggressive case. Shift Control P, Shift Control R. And then we can take the base case times this this number. We could actually, I suppose, have de-escalated it or whatever, but we'll take NPV, and we'll use our discount rate again, and then take that of this number. Now when we do that, whoops, did I do something? Ah, shoot. Okay. That's because my Shift Control R is certainly not a perfect statistic. Okay. And that difference for alternative 2 is just going to be our base case again, minus the, okay, we'll go on and on now. Why don't I stop the video for a minute and do case 3 and case 4 and 5, just these lookup interpolate things. Okay, I'm back. All I did was use this wonderful interpolate lookup function. Really, I actually think it's a, hope you see the benefits of it. Now, for alternative 3, that's fine. We have the number, and then what I did is put the difference between the NPVs and the base case NPV here. And finally, I named these differences. So we can name all these ranges and just have our goal seek do everything at one go. Before we do that, however, let's do a couple of things. The upfront payment, let's take this times not the CapEx. So if we're going to include that kind of in a CapEx, now if we do that, okay, that might be not a high enough one. Just a minute. I put this is way too high, of course. So this is this base case of 30 has got to be something like 10%. Okay. And now, I guess that was interesting. That didn't change anything. So we're gonna pay 150 up front and pay NPV the same discount rate. This time, and suppose we should have put suppose to really measure accurately, then we should have used F rather than okay. Why did I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Now finally we'll multiply this by the so we can pay some of it up front. Okay. Now I think before we well no let's do all of these things. So this again is the base case NPV minus the this one. Now there might be some tax effectiveness, so we should be a little bit careful with this, but for now I'm going to just do it without the tax effect really. Okay, and we have this, so we have all these differences. We want all those differences to be equal to 0. Now, just temporarily, let's look and remember what this this was base %1. Remember that. I should remember that because I typed it in wrong. Okay, and then we'll put 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we can name all these ranges using Shift Control F3. We need to name them because we're going to put them in the macro. I'll name all these ranges, Shift Control F3. And then now once we've named those, we can just delete that. And we have these are all the percentages, and then all we do is go to our little macro and put the different ranges in. Okay, and let's put 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when we hopefully, when we now just run this macro with our little, it's doing it all. Not so bad. It takes a little long. Okay, it would be have been perhaps a little better to make a dynamic goal seek that we can put these in. Remember Shift Control C, so we can see that this was in an input. Now finally, let's put the so let's just put this. Now I do this too much and waste too much time on this, but we need, if you're going to put those into a format control, and the reason we're going to do that is we want to put that next to our graph in the next page. Okay. And we put a different sheet name. Where should I put it? Here. Okay. And this time we can't use my favorite function. That's too bad. We'll have to use the choose instead of the index function because they're not in the same word. So we can go up to this one, press F4, and then just take our first one, second one, third one, and fourth one, and fifth one. Now I should have I do this. I think we should have done it like this, should we? Let's just make sure. Oh, shoot. Why did that not work? Okay. Look, when I did that, of course, I did it wrong. Okay. Okay, now, okay, we're all okay. And now we better adjust this. Okay. Take our base case first, alternative case 1, alternative case 2, alternative case 3. Okay, and then shift control R. Oh. Just didn't quite understand what happened with my shift control R function there, but we finally, so we have our alternative maintenance, and now we'll just put a couple of these things in our that's bad, shift control 7 if we'll just be lazy about it. Okay, alright, and then we'll put our two things in here. Let's put gross capital expenditures, base, and let's just put our 1,000. We'll of course have to put this, and then we'll add the O&M expenses that we have. So I'll call this now I'm sure we couldn't call it this. I'm sure what we'd have to do is we'd have to name it something or just increase the EPC cost, but I think the idea is more clear like this. Now, we better I'm gonna color the sheets. So if we go to add-ins, the color sheets, yeah, it is here. So we just press this one, and O&M agreement. Why is that from the O&M agreement? So let's make it a different color. Fine, I colored the sheets wrong. Okay, make it purple. It has to be a dark color, really. And color sheet, top color. Okay, so we have that one. And then we'll get our maintenance expense. It's simply the expenses for year one. Shift Control R, and then again you'd have to redo this. That doesn't automatically do it each time. I don't know how in the heck you do that. Okay, and then EBITDA is our starting point minus the difference. Now, if we have any goal seeks around the EBITDA, of course we have to change those. And this is not working because we went negative, and instead of wasting a lot of your time, I'm gonna mess around with the numbers a little bit. Again, this is of course an illustrative thing. So but if we put base case, uh-oh. Okay. Okay, well, this is way too high. 10% of the capex is way too high. So should it be maybe 2% of the capex? Now when we do that, we'll have to do them all. Okay, not that bad. So, okay, let's just kind of look at what's happening now. Okay, and if we use the alternative case 1, it's changing it a little bit. Alternative case 2 is changing it somewhat more. And we have a circular reference. Oh, shit. Okay, so let me look at the dreaded blue line and finish this, but it really doesn't do enough. We almost want to really do more, especially it would be good to take this ending stuff and move it back. Okay, and I need a break. Okay, I'm going to finish with this one now. Now, we have a revenue goal seek, so we can find that to get 14.5%. Now, if we push alternative 1, then because we're still DSCR constrained, we're getting close to it though. We get all the way up to 22%. Now, when we change it to alternative 3, it actually doesn't help us that much more. Still DSCR constraint. So it's really the zeros at the beginning that are causing the thing. Revenue 4 doesn't help us as much, but it still helps a lot because we started with 14. This one helps less because we have to put any extra equity into the company. And finally, alternative 5. We have to put even more equity in it. That actually has that effect that was kind of a little, for me, unexpected. So alternative 3 was the best. Now if we start with revenues of 115, if we want to then see how much we can lower the revenues by having this, we get it down to 103. So it was a pretty big effect on the amount you can charge. Now the final thing is we could put let's put the O&M discount rates. Okay, let's just go back to our other sheet. So we had a very low discount rate. Maybe we put a higher rate, which gives the O&M company increased profits. Now, it gets more interesting if the O&M company is owned by the same company, because then you could see what happens now if we have the higher discount rates. You can see the 14% went down. So this is kind of a problem with doing all that goal seek shit. But it's not that sensitive to it's not that sensitive to it. Now, the real problem here, of course, is that, not of course, but is that O&M expenses might not be that high. Oh, right now, ooh, this isn't that high. Let's do one more. Fine. Let's put the O&M 5% of the capital, and we're going to have to redo all of our cases. Oops. Now we actually have a really interesting effect. And maybe it's almost too much. Ooh. Okay, something's wrong. That one I like. You know, maybe that's the problem. We had a negative IRR. Let's just get our base case back to here. And now, look how much the IRR goes up from alternative 1. Alternative 2, it almost was too much. So you can see what you're really doing is, when I said it's kind of synthetic sculpting, okay? And I think that's enough. I'm going to save this as O&M and Synthetic Sculpting, and I think it's a reasonably advanced issue.